later on. Welcome wherever you are. Hope you're having a good day today. So today I'm joined by Isaac Ware. We're going to get stuck into everything all about ABM, which I'm very excited for. But first, before we begin, it would be really good to know what sectors everyone is in. This will be helpful for our Q&A later. So in the chat box, if everyone could just pop in for a second while we're waiting for everyone else to join. Yeah, what sector you're working in, what your ABM looks like at the moment, that would be really, really helpful. So yeah, we'll just wait for those to come through and wait for a few more people to join, okay? So let's have a look. Okay, so I might as well get started with my introduction. So if we haven't met already, my name is Martha Whiting and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Wynter. And I'm really excited today to welcome our Wynter Workshop guest today, Isaac Ware. Isaac is a B2B demand generation leader with over 10 years experience building revenue-driving programs across SaaS, e-commerce, and agency environments too. And at User Gems, he leads the team behind a signal-based ABM engine that's consistently driven 25% of pipeline and 37% of closed-won revenue. Now, Isaac's approach blends AI, data, and storytelling to help teams launch ABM programs that convert without blowing up the budget or the tech stack. And that's exactly what he's going to show you how to do today, which should be a very good session. But before I hand over to Isaac, just quickly, we're going to be having the Q&A at the end. So I'm going to jump off the screen and Isaac's going to get presenting. But please do keep your questions coming in throughout. You can put them in the chat box, you can put them in the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end. But in the meantime, please join me in welcoming Isaac. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Isaac, Senior Director of Demand here at User Gems, and we're going to be diving into an ABM program that we've been running for coming up on 6 years now. We've really structured it in a very simple way because, again, over time we've tested things and got more complex and more personalized and pulled back in some ways. So I'm just going to kind of share that in a way that's more agnostic to your tech stack. For us at User Gems, we use our own tech pretty heavily, but I wanted to kind of show how you can use AI to, as a small team or a lean team or somebody that's just now building out their ABM program, how you can execute an ABM program that doesn't break the bank, doesn't take a lot of head count, and is more simple and more palatable. So let's get into it. Just for some context here, like Martha said, we have about 25% of all of our sales qualified pipeline coming from this ABM program. Our whole GTM motion is kind of built around this program, and about 37% of our closed-won revenue. When you look at this, though, in terms of like how we execute it and what the numbers are at the starting point, we're targeting about 600 accounts a quarter, and we're actually testing this up to 600 a month. Out of all of those accounts, though, we get about 12 to 15% of every single account we target converted into a sales accepted opportunity. And when you look at baselines, you're usually 2 to 4% with more broadly based intent-based ABM programs where you're using one of those popular ABM tools to actually execute these programs. So we're going to be doing this kind of presentation, thinking about it from the perspective of lean or no tech in terms of ABM platforms. Again, going into the headcount side of things, we're executing this program at scale for the past, 5 years with just 3 people. 2 of them are contract. 1 of them is the ABM manager. And the contractors there just basically help on the support side with our one-to-one ABM ads. When we look at typical ABM programs, and again, I'm doing 3 to 5 sales calls or prospect calls every single week, breaking down people's ABM programs, kind of looking where their starting points are, what their low-hanging fruit is in terms of signals to select accounts based around. This is typically what I see for an ABM manager. They have a pretty even split between building lists, prioritizing accounts, trying to align with sales, emphasis on the trying, ideation, execution, measurement. And that's kind of split up over the week, and it's pretty ongoing. What we've done on our side, and again, we're using our own tooling for this, but again, we help people without User Gems stand up these programs, and we really want to emphasize using AI or tooling to help with those first two sections, with list building, with prioritization of accounts. This allows your ABM manager to either, again, keep one ABM manager or a leaner team and help them focus on the stuff that matters more, not like the menial prospecting-esque work of an ABM manager. When you're breaking out kind of your process for your ABM program, this is one of the best starting points you can kind of dive into is identify inefficiencies in your current workflow or map out what you think your workflow for ABM is going to look like and identify those inefficiencies. Even after 5 years, we're still inefficient in some ways. So we still flag certain areas like this so we can pull in either AI to assist there or build out the product to assist more in certain areas. For instance, selecting 600 accounts for us, if you're just selecting 600 accounts without signals, this piece of cake if you have this in your CRM. For us though, we select 600 accounts based off of individual contact level signals. For us, that's a little bit beyond what a human is able to do at scale accurately. So for us, this is a huge piece where product can come in with AI. Aligning with SDRs. Again, if you're selecting based off of these signals, this is actually something that can be assisted with AI or some workflow in the background. Building out those lists of contacts, sequencing, all of this can have AI as an element. So really map this out, flag inefficiencies, and really be honest with yourself of where you need to improve these. Going further into this though, we're going to touch on a little bit of the basics. This is something that has surprised me over the years where I'll talk to somebody that's at a 10,000 person plus company running the ABM program, and they actually don't have persona defined, ICP defined, some of these basics. And while for a lot of us, this might seem like a really basic starting point, you may think you have your persona defined, but what we really want here is to be able to define our persona at a really granular level so that when we do look at our CRM, we can easily search through it. Or if you have just a CSV of data, like you really want to be able to search through it at a granular level. And this means function seniority, but also getting into keyword inclusions, exclusions. One of the biggest things that small companies can do is actually launch an ABM program like this because of spend efficiencies. Before User Gyms actually had a fully built out paid media program with all the funnels and signals and everything kind of built in, we actually started with ABM first because it was so cost efficient. And the reason we were able to get it so cost efficient is because we were actually able to narrow our personas so tightly, where if they had a specific keyword in there, we didn't include them in the persona definition. We had to have certain keywords in other places. And eventually you can get down to the point where you're targeting your exact persona at a more granular level. How we do this on our side, or how we did it in the past before it was built into our product, was actually through using AI like this. And before this, it was more of like spreadsheet based approach. If you're able to see this, you can screenshot this prompt right here, and this will actually help you get that persona based off of a CSV of your customers. So this will help you define those keyword inclusions, exclusions, title groupings, everything like that. As we all know, AI is not perfect. So audit this data and really like tweak this prompt to your company. Certain industries have really bizarre buying groups. So really think about that when you're getting into this prompt. But this should be a really good starting point for you to help define that persona at a granular level. Getting into the ICP side of things, again, this is going to be your employee counts, revenues, industry, geography, tech stack, all of that. We're going to do the exact same approach in terms of the prompting on that side of things. But again, really get granular with this and try to find alignment with leadership on this as well. I think there's, especially in early startups, there's a tendency to go too broad because we sell to everybody is usually what we hear on that side of things. And also be honest with who your best buyers are. Try and analyze those deals where maybe you have one persona that's initiating the deal, you have one persona that's closing out those deals, and you have some that are initiating the deals and never involved in actually closing out those deals. So really evaluate your deal flow, evaluate your customer list, and see who's your true champion in that. I actually recommend narrowing in on that with your first ABM program. We're kind of get into that MVP later on of what that looks like. But starting more narrow is, in my opinion, the best way to go. Usually when we see ABM programs being built, we have a lot of people that are trying to do one-to-many programs around entire verticals and really broad buying groups and trying to hit everybody. But when in reality, like your first goal with this program is to build out a process that's repeatable. So even if it's too narrow at first, it's better to start too narrow and learn from it and then expand in smaller increments than to kind of go all at once. So getting into that prompt, we're going to be doing the exact same thing again. So we're going to be using this to, again, generate a list of high fit lookalike accounts that we should target. This is going to be based off of, again, your customer list, but it's also going to hopefully surface some of those other ones. GPT is getting better at this, especially if you use more of like a deep research model or something like that, can actually provide all of this data around this. So if your CRM data isn't clean, you don't have that list of starting accounts, this can be a good place to start, especially for smaller startups. As this program progresses, you can obviously include more tech on that side of things for finding that ICP, like a key play or something along those lines. But this is going to be a good starting point for you. Next, we're going to get into building the list of people. And this is something where we're starting to get into that alignment piece of ABM. I firmly believe that marketing should be providing the exact contacts, especially early stage, for your BDRs to reach out to. Number one, this is kind of an alignment play on the side of things, but also two, we're going to be selecting all of these accounts based on contact level reasons. Your BDRs are so jaded. They have either, if they're experienced BDRs, they have worked with marketing teams that have passed them quote unquote surging accounts where you have an entire account that is quote showing intent. And now that BDR is tasked with finding that individual person at a Cisco that is making that account surge. And this is something that's becoming more and more apparent for people, is that account level intent 50% of the time, or greater than 50% of the time, is actually coming from a single contact at that account. So by flipping this around and actually starting with the contact level reasons and contact lists, we can kind of get rid of that alignment issue and help build trust with our SDRs on that side of things. So this prompt right here is going to actually help you with building that list. And it's actually getting pretty accurate on the GPT side of things. So if you don't have a user gems, a clay, any of those other techs to actually surface the people at the accounts, this is a great starting point for you for building out the MVP to prove out the program before you go buy a bunch of tech. Let's dive into the signals. This is the core of the reason why UserGem's ABM program works the way it does. We're selecting contact level reasons to reach out to these accounts. We loop in obviously account signals as well. So we are doing account level website visitors as well as site level visitors from a vector or RB2B or whatever you're using on that side. But a lot of these core signals are going to be things like past champions, multi-threading that buying group, custom signals that you may have in your CRM as a field that you're able to pull in, such as like high MPS at their previous account, things like that. The other low-hanging fruit too, if you have the data, is surging in new hires and promotions. New hires and promotions in buying roles buy at a much higher rate for about those 3 months to a year after they get hired. So it's a good kind of signal on that side of things, where if you don't have past champion signal, you can use surges in new hires and promotions on that side of things. Getting into the core of why this works, ABM is the alignment of BDR sales function with marketing. And the way that people are approaching ABM is inherently flawed in a lot of ways. We're a lot of the time saying, yes, we want sales alignment, but then we're actually going to the sales team with, hey, here's who you're going to target. I haven't really thought through this in your perspective, but this is who we're targeting. They're surging. We're going to target these accounts. Go find the contacts. And then you're pushing it on a BDR to actually figure this out on their own. BDRs have a lot going on, and it's in my opinion not their job to really figure out your broken account list that you sent over to them. So one of the first things you can do is actually talk to your BDRs. Find that top BDR at the account and ask them, what signals are you using currently to select your accounts? How are you prospecting into these accounts? Are you using past champions? If so, how are you finding them? Are they talking to CSMs? Are they talking to AEs? How are they tracking that down? This is going to be your best starting point for, again, finding that alignment with your BDRs, but also identifying what signals work for your company. There might be some signals that work for UserGems that don't work for your company, especially in some really niche industries. So talk to them, find out what they are, and use that as your core signal for selecting those accounts. So what this might look like is you've identified, okay, we have our ICP accounts. These are the signals that we can work off of. Like, I'm confident that we can find a way to bootstrap past champions. We can find new hires and promotions. We can find the total number of past champions. We can find our close lost in our CRM data, customer competitors. GPT is great for this signal. There's a lot of free options for website visitors. A lot of these can be found here. And what I want you to do is try to stack them in a way that's really easy for you, but also really effective. A lot of the time, what we see for that is stacking signals like previous closed lost ops and past champions. We want this kind of account level reason that also can be a contact level reason if you've tracked who that previous closed lost op contact is with an entry point into the account. And again, if you talk to your best BDRs and they're solid BDRs, a lot of them are going to be doing this play already. So if you're able to select all of your accounts based off of this and pass them that data, you're going to be able to get buy-in on your program much easier. And again, buy-in isn't just buy-in from leadership. A lot of the times it is buy-in from sales, buy-in from your marketing leader, getting your CEO bought into the program. Because again, your goal is to build out this program at scale. And that's not going to happen without revenue. Unfortunately, as much as we would love to generate some MQLs and get tens of thousands of dollars to build out this program, it's just not going to happen. So we're trying to find our path of least resistance to quick closed won revenue. And this is going to be that point. Past champions close way quicker, previous closed lost ops close way quicker. So that's the basic of like what this can look like when you're selecting this account. Eventually you can build out more of a scoring model around this. This is a screenshot from a couple years back of what our first scoring model looked like. Again, out of a Google sheet, we eventually built this out in HubSpot and did more of a manual model before building out a more complex AI machine learning type scoring model within our own platform. But this can be a great way to start where you've identified 3 or 4 signals that really work for your account. You've identified that ICP, your tech stack fit, all of that, and built it into a scoring model like this. This can be a great starting point, but again, if you have tooling for this already or anything like that, build it out in that program like a HubSpot or something. Going a little bit further into the AI side of things, the one thing I really want to emphasize is be ethical and be responsible with your use of data and AI. I think there's like the more holistic like ethics side of it, but there's also the side of it where it's just not going to perform if you're not being responsible with it. If you plug these GPT prompts into GPT and you don't audit the data that comes out of it, and then you start sending emails based off of it, you're going to end up with shit. You're going to have crap data with crap machine, or with machine learning, you're gonna get crap. Same with artificial intelligence. Generative AI is going to give you something really beautiful, but it's still going to be crap. Agentic AI has the potential of providing a lot of variety of crap. So be really responsible with this. Use your gut in terms of like, is this what I should be doing? Yeah, be responsible. Be good marketers. Don't abuse it. Let's get into the engagement side of things. This is where a lot of, and that one on the right isn't loading, but this is where we're going to see a lot of conversions come through. A lot of personalization can fall into the category of novelty. With a lot of people selling into sales and marketing or some of these enterprise companies, they've seen one-to-one ABM at scale. They've been on the receiving end hundreds of times sometimes. So a lot of the time, these programs will work really well with smaller companies where you are going after a 100-person company because the novelty hasn't worn off on them. On the flip side, though, even with these larger companies, we're still seeing those high conversion rates with ads like this. And as much as I don't want it to be true, there is some bit of novelty to ads like this where we are showing their logo in the ad. Really plain language messaging. Again, this is the result of about 5 years of testing. They're nothing special. This pushes that emphasis back to your account selection matters more than anything. We have these very simple ads with very plain language with a small brand element in it. Nothing crazy, but they're still converting at that 12 to 15% to opportunity. Not even just off landing page. Like this is converting to a sales accepted op. Once these opportunities come in off of ads like the ones you see on the left here, one of the opportunities you do have is you've built out this contact list, hopefully. You have some of the buyers at this account. That opportunity is open, multi-thread them. If this was loading, what it would say is, hey, sales, hey, marketing, hey, RevOps, your team is talking with us about X. Do you want to join the conversation? We've actually run this one as a split test against our entire CRM for about 8 months. We saw higher win rates, bigger deal sizes, more prospects involved in the deal, shorter sales cycles. It's a really low-hanging fruit, low-cost campaign that you can run to pull more people in, again, to align with your sales team. Your AEs are working off these contacts, work with them on those accounts, multi-thread them in. People will be screenshotting these, sending them in Slack, requesting demos off them, and it's a nice little fist bump to your sales team. Going into the landing page side of things, a lot of ABM people, managers, marketing managers running ABM programs will lean into the personalization side of things way too heavily. We've tested dozens of variations of personalization on website, on ads, on videos from the AEs. Your core program, in my opinion, should not have highly customized landing pages. And this goes against what a lot of vendors suggest. But there's a lot of Wynter studies that have been done around this personalization, and a lot of user gems, internal studies, and budget wasted on programs like this, where it is really tempting, especially as a marketer, to build a ABM program that is really cool looking. But when you're building out this program, we don't necessarily want it to be cool looking. We want it to convert really well, and we want to be able to do it with a low head count. So for us, we've never seen a significant lift in conversion to opportunity off of our highly customized landing pages. These are landing pages where I'm showing headshots of buying groups and job changers and how it's going to affect individual people, and videos from the AEs. And it actually does not outperform homepage. And this is not for a lack of trying either, because I would love to have a very cool looking ABM program. So we do run these occasionally just to keep testing it, because I think there's a little bit of my personal project that I love to do some customization like this. But our core program that converts 12 to 15% is off of our homepage. Really basic personalized ads like you see here, directed to our homepage. Obviously, make sure your homepage is a solid homepage. Your messaging is clear. You've gone through that exercise, but this is going to be your starting point here. Getting into the sales touches. Again, at this point, you have given your BDRs the people to reach out to at the right accounts and the reasons they should be reaching out to them. This is going to be, again, through a spreadsheet or your CRM or anything like that. But what we want them to do is incorporate that into all of their outbound. For the User Gems team, we are obviously automating a lot of this in terms of email personalization, but the best point you can give to your BDRs is actually provide them with these emails. If you go to the User Gems website, go to resources, go to playbooks, and you can actually get all of our emails that we recommend for each signal. Copy and paste them. You don't even have to buy User Gems. Copy and paste our playbooks and use it for your BDR team. Just make their lives easier, basically. Especially if you have a lot of junior BDRs, this is a good starting point for them to kind of get into like what a good email looks like, personalized to a specific signal. We'll get into a little bit more granular bits of that later when we get into the prompting. But this is what you want to avoid. And this kind of gets back to the ethics of crap data plus AI outputs crap. On the left-hand side, this is actually an anonymized version of an email that we have received at User Gems. Our CEO got this one. Notice that you went to Northwestern. Go Wildcats. Speaking of which, how's your pipeline going? Like, this is actual emails we've received on the side of things where they're using a quote unquote signal, again, bad data, from a LinkedIn post scrape or something like that, or a LinkedIn profile scrape, and trying to incorporate it into their outbound motion. What these emails should look like, whether you are using AI or if you're using human BDRs for the full cycle instead of like an AI copilot, is linking these signals into the email as much as possible. And it's not just one signal into the email. You want as many of those signals as possible to make it as human as possible. So for us, we are bringing up those past relationships. So we look at here, we have those past champions going, thanks for bringing User Gems to Clarity back in the day. we have more of our pain point here. We looped in the customer competitor here. We have Sales Loft mentioned right here to kind of bring that relevance to the thing. What you will notice about this email, though, is we actually aren't asking for the demo. So this is a great opportunity to actually reference one of the other signals you have found at the account. So for us, we're saying, P.S. AJ Smith from your SDR team checked us out last year. Perhaps you want to get his take. So this is looping in that previous close lost op message into, or the signal into this message. This can work with champion job changes, revive close lost, anything like that, to start that conversation in the background and lend some credibility. So if you do truly believe in your product, you should be happy to loop two people that are previous users together to talk about this. So a lot of the time we'll say, hey, saw AJ Smith was a previous user back at Pendo. Maybe you want to chat about your experience with it. Loop those signals in as much as possible. Don't just jump into the demo request. Even if it is a past champion, you don't have to jump into asking for a demo. The email prompting can be quite difficult. This is one that we can work off of to get you started on that side of things. I still recommend giving those kind of email templates to your BDRs to work off of, or giving them a template to work off of if you are stacking specific signals. So say we go back to the signals we talked about earlier, stacking revive close lost with previous champion. Use that revive close lost in that PS, or use the previous champion one in the header. If you want to work on something that's a little more advanced using AI, you can do prompting like this, where we are doing more if-then statements. If this row or this cell exists in this CSV, then include this line. Get creative with this, though, because this can actually provide some really interesting outputs, and maybe you can build your templates off of this prompt. And again, going back to the context is king. You don't want individual fields or signals lined up with individual messages. Try to loop them all together. So what does this look like for your MVP? We just went over a lot of stuff and it can be overwhelming, but let's get down to the core of what your ABM MVP that is based off signals can look like. This is what I recommend for just about everybody getting started, whether you've run ABM in the past, whether it's one-to-many or one-to-one. Start with 20 accounts. Every single one of those accounts should have a previous closed lost opportunity at the account, and you should have 2 or more previous champions at that account if you can surface that. If you can't, again, talk with your BDRs about what signals they're using and loop that in. This gives you a really clear threshold of, you can have 20 accounts. This can be a very manual process to start, but this is what we want. We want your marketing leader, if you're an ABM manager, if you're the director of demand, anything like that, I want you to be able to get into this program and build it out yourself. Document every step along the way. This should be something where you could hand it off to an intern and your instructions are so good that they could launch this entire program start to finish. Document everything and keep it simple. So for us, only 2 channels we recommend starting with is personalized outbound based on the signals. So again, that BDR motion, really simple: calls, LinkedIn messages, emails. And on the marketing side, one-to-one LinkedIn ad campaigns is what we recommend on this side. It is really tempting to go one-to-many. We've done a lot of tests with identical ads minus the logo going to one-to-many based off the exact same selection criteria, and it has not converted the exact same way. So there is something to that little bit of personalization on the one-to-one side. And there's also a lot of spend efficiencies we can get into for 30 minutes. But again, some of these opportunities we're looking at in April, I was going through all of our opportunities that opened up, and a lot of these accounts had less than $10 spent during the month to actually generate the opportunity. So you can actually position these campaigns to spend a lot less and be way more targeted. So there's less waste on that side of things. Over time, this will get more complex, but again, think about it in adding layers that are more always on. Instead of building out this massive program all at once, think about it in terms of layers. So for us, we're just talking about this green layer right here, where we're running quarterly ABM to one-to-one targeting based off signals. Over time, you'll have more always on campaigns based on those signals. So as you get better at identifying past champions, working through revive, close, loss, building out that playbook with your BDRs, finding out what to do with your low priority accounts, event nurture, add those things all together and kind of build your layer cake over time. But really start simple with some low hanging fruit, whatever that might be for you. That's it. That was a lot. So I really want to get into any questions. I see there's a notification bubble on my right of some of those chats that have popped up. So I really want to get into answering some questions for y'all.
Okay, perfect. Let me just get the screen all sorted. Thank you ever so much, Isaac. Super
Yeah.
insightful. Thank you again. So we've got a few questions coming through. Let's just give everyone a moment actually there just to put all your questions in. I'd quite like to get started in terms of how you structure your ad account. Could you just run us through that as well? And I've got a few more follow-up questions on that. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. So man, here we go. When we structure these accounts, we do it by quarterly in terms of campaign groups. So we have a campaign group for every single quarter, so we can kind of view it quarter over quarter performance wise. Every single one of those campaigns, though, is dedicated to a specific account. Start as narrowed as possible, depending if you're going up market or if you're starting small. This is going to look way different. So start around that ICP, that persona that we built out early on. And then expand it until you hit LinkedIn's 300 minimum threshold on those campaigns. This, though, I mean, even if you're getting into the point where you do have to target the entire campaign, every single quarter we do see engineers or a head of product tagging in marketing or sales for us to actually request the demo. It could be because they found the ad interesting or they knew it was relevant enough to pass on to their team. And because it is one-to-one, they feel a lot more comfortable doing that than if it was more of a generic top of funnel ad.
Okay, perfect. And how do you get around that 300 minimum as well that happens on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
do that?
This is a question that I get a lot. We target a lot of accounts that are sub 300. I don't know if there's any LinkedIn people on this call, but what we do on this side is we actually use filler audiences for this. And this is a great opportunity to use a HVAC company or a plumbing company or something like that, where the users aren't necessarily very active on LinkedIn. And if they do get on LinkedIn, they really don't care if they see an ad with somebody else's logo in it. They're not going to recognize it. So it's a way to keep costs down while still being able to target some of these smaller companies, give them that personalization that these enterprise companies have been receiving.
Okay, amazing. Love that. We've got a question coming through here. Let me just have a little look. It's from KD. It says, is ABM useful for a company that's starting from scratch?
Yes, 100%. If you're able to define that ICP, that persona, everything we went through in the beginning, it's a great opportunity to spend a lot less. Obviously, we've scaled our LinkedIn spend over the years, but for us, again, we're able to spend on a lot of these accounts so actually, just to give you some hard numbers. So for April this year, our cost per sales accepted opportunity on those 600 accounts was less than $300. So it's an amazing opportunity for you to get a lot more into how you're doing your personalization, your messaging, everything like that. It's going to be a little bit more manual for you, but it's a way better way to use your spend, in my opinion, on LinkedIn than to go really broad. You can build up to going broad later on once you have everything dialed in, but early stage, I definitely recommend ABM.
Okay, brilliant. And do you do any one-to-many as well?
I do one-to-many in a different type of way. So I view one-to-many on like the contact level for us. So we have a lot of these signals like champion job changes and new hires, promotions, everything like that. And we like to surround them with ads that feel very one-to-one, but are low lift on our side. So actually with champion job changes, we're saying congrats on the new role. And then we have other ads that are more like time-based checklists around like your first 90 days as a VP of marketing. Here's your audit for your signals or your AI program or something like that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, amazing. We've got more questions coming. We've got Alexa saying, what? I never knew about filler audiences. Thank you for that. So thanks, Isaac.
Yeah.
Let's have a little look here. So we've got a few coming through. We've got quite a large question here from Nikhil. Could you have a look at that one as well, Isaac?
Yeah. One of our main, go for it.
Oh, do you want to go for it? I don't mind.
I'll go for it. Yeah. One of our main channels is LinkedIn advertising. We're pivoting from using the LinkedIn filters that are very broad to build these bottom-up lists based on named accounts. Currently, is those that have gone through Clay sector, ICP prompt, employee size bands. Awesome. Not a very specific question, but do you have any broader learnings for the pivot to bottom-up LinkedIn account building? I actually don't know necessarily what you mean for bottom-up account building, because when we reference like bottom-up account building, we usually or I guess more contact level on the bottom-up side is where we're going like ICs up. If you're able to expand on what you exactly mean by building up a bottom-up list, I would love to answer that one. But it sounds like you're on the right track using the Clay side of things. It's a great starting point for people building out these programs.
Yeah, let's give Nikhil a couple of seconds to to answer back on that one. Laura's got another question here. Just in the meantime, we'll wait for Nikhil to give some more context. Any CRM recommendations? We use Pipedrive, feels limited. HubSpot versus Attio. How are we feeling about that, Isaac?
I've heard a lot of tough things about Pipedrive, so I feel for you there. Attio seems like it's a good starting point for a lot of people lately. There's some really cool features in there. It is more of like a simple environment. We use HubSpot and Salesforce, so we're definitely not as simple on that side of things, but we have a really built out RevOps function that helps support that. But if you're especially early marketing, managing your entire CRM, I think Attio could be a great path on that side of things.
Okay, brilliant. And we've got another one from KD here as well, saying less than $300 CPL. What costs do you include?
Yeah, so that one is our ad spend, and this is the $300 in terms of the amount spent across all of the accounts for the entire quarter. So $300 CPL, and that's pretty consistent for us. I think we sometimes, if we've gotten a little crazy with the account selection, we've bumped up towards that 500 mark. We've gone lower than 300 quite a bit though. We don't include headcount on this cost, but even with headcount, this is still a very, very low cost per sales accepted op. And this isn't even just a demo request. This is like a SAT, again, accepted op by the AE team for us.
Okay, brilliant. So we've got one here from Dave as well, which came through earlier actually during your presentation. I don't know if you can see this one here, Isaac. It says we work with nonprofits that do fundraising to drive their missions. How much of the data that your platform leverages come from nonprofits versus for-profits?
Comes from not a lot of our data is come. I guess if we're looking at this in terms of like a user gems type question, this is based off of a lot of any publicly available information, LinkedIn, anything like that can be incorporated into this data. I'm always surprised with how many people are on LinkedIn. I've heard a lot of the times like people will say like we were just working with a disability nonprofit and they were like, I don't think our people are on LinkedIn. We ran a test and they actually had a massive amount of people on LinkedIn that we could actually gather, and a lot of job changes in and out within the industry or people that were previous champions moving into their target companies too. So I would run a test, do it manually if you can. If you want to bootstrap that, kind of run a manual test and see if your data lives there. LinkedIn can be a great fit for a lot of people.
Okay, perfect. And Nikhil's got back to us as well with a bit more context on the previous question. Can you see that? Thanks. Instead of using LinkedIn filters to define our audience, e.g. consulting, industry bucket, we're building our audience of a specific list of named fit accounts. Perfect. We found using the LinkedIn sector filters wraps in a load of companies that none fit. We haven't yet made the jump to specific accounts. Maybe that is next.
Yeah, so I actually ran all of my top of funnel non-ABM off of contact lists for a long time, just because we had the data for it. If your data matches that like 75 to 90% plus, there is a case to be made for defining those contact lists to use with LinkedIn to reduce waste. I actually do agree with that in like a core principle. If you have a small team though, and you're constantly trying to keep that updated, it can suck, to be completely honest, of trying to like function off of those contact lists. I do like using the LinkedIn filters for building out your ABM audience or your one-to-one ABM audiences though, just because as soon as you start getting to lower match rates and you're trying to work off contacts per account, and then you're trying to scale to 600 accounts, doing contact list uploads or account list uploads for 600 accounts is tough, to be frank, even if you are using virtual assistants to assist you on that side. So there is a place for those bottom-up audiences. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And we've got Laura as well. Could you expand on what you mean by one-to-one LinkedIn ad campaigns, please? I missed that part.
Yeah, definitely. So this is going to be building out a single campaign for a single company, which allows you to customize that ad to that company. So for us, we're including a logo in there. I've also done ads where I'm showing that company's score within user gems. I'm showing them headshots of people that are previous champions, new hires into the account, things like that. So people at that account are seeing themselves in the ad. That gets into an area where it's, if you're selling to marketing, it's a lot less creepy. If you're selling into cybersec, definitely don't do that. But it allows you to get a little more customized with your campaigns, spend a lot less.
Okay, brilliant. Great advice. I have a question as well, just in terms of gifting. Is that something that you do? And what does that look like for you at UseGems?
Yeah, we work really closely with Sendoso on gifting. And for us, this
Okay.
isn't a lot of the time a preemptive gift where we're like, we start targeting the account and we send something to their office or home.
Yeah.
Usually it's those first steps based off of those signals because a lot of these signals are somebody just landed a promotion, throw them a
Mhm.
gift. Don't ask them for anything. If you do give
Okay, nice.
anything in that email, try to provide some value. So, like, give them a checklist. Hey, here's lunch on me. Hope you're settling into your new role. That goes a long ways of like just be human with them,
Mhm.
congratulate them, stay in front of them. If they're ready to convert, they will on that side of things.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we've got Casey from Sendoso on next week actually for our Wynter Workshop, so I'll be picking her brains a lot more on that.
Everybody
But
should join that one. Yeah.
okay, amazing. We've got another question that's just come here again from KD. Let me have a little look at this. It says, "Is ABM useful?" No, we've already asked that one. Oh, it's Christian. Sorry. How many creatives do you run at any given time for a one-to-one campaign? There we go.
Yeah, so this one can be tricky at scale. So we have a very good virtual assistant for actually building out ads. So for us with 600 accounts, we run 5 ads per account. Each ad is customized to the account. So for us, we're looking at like 3,000 ads per quarter, which is a little ridiculous. I don't recommend starting with that because it'll make you hate your job. Um, so start with like 3 per campaign when you're selecting those 20 accounts for your ABM minimum viable product, and kind of go from there. See what you can handle. Use Canva if possible, so you can kind of template it out and just kind of paste those logos in if you're doing logo customization. As you scale, though, if you get somebody that's really good at ads and cranking it out and building those campaigns, push it to that 5 mark because that is ideal, and you get a lot of learnings off of it.
Okay, amazing. That's really good advice. We've got another one again from Alexa saying, "This has been super useful and insightful. Any advice on getting exec level support and alignment on the programs and plans?"
Yeah, this one again, as much as we don't like to hear it, is generate revenue. If you go to your CMO or CEO, depending on the size of your company, and you launched this amazing one-to-one program and it didn't generate any closed one ops and your sales team wasn't buying or bought in, you're not going to get additional funding for this program. So first off, get that BDR buy-in, get them excited about the program so they're kind of talking about it. But then again, your account selection is based on your quickest path to revenue, to get that leadership buy-in. It's a lot easier to have that conversation past that point. For a program this small, they probably don't care that you're building it kind of on the side if you want to do it on the side without asking permission. But if you're able to come to them with, hey, we closed this deal in 30 less days than our typical deal cycle, and it was a larger deal because we used a previous champion for this. This is how we want to build out this program. It's going to be a lot easier going forward.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. So I think that might be it for questions, actually. I don't know if anyone else has got any more, but please feel free to send those through. But today has been such a good session. Thank you. Oh, we've got
Oh,
more
we
coming
got
through.
perfect.
I was about to do a wrap up.
Yeah.
Let's get into questions. This is great. Okay, amazing. Let's have a little
Tech stack.
look. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. We've got one on. Here we go. Let me see. Everything's coming up in a funny order for me. I do apologize. Okay, Gregory, how does your tech suit look like for being able to execute ABM? Which platforms and tools do you use? Sorry, I joined late if you've already mentioned this.
No worries. Yeah. So I'm very biased towards a very lean program. I've seen way too many programs that are using a 6-figure ABM platform that we all know and love, to only get 2 to 4% conversion rate on their program. And that is the like dozens of people come to User Gems to talk about their ABM program. And a lot of time that's the main point they're having is they have this account level intent. Their BDRs can't find the contacts. They don't convert well. So for us, we actually recommend starting as lean as possible. We only use our User Gems for our own data internally. This presentation, though, I do lend or go more towards an agnostic approach of use AI, GPT prompts, use Clay to kind of start forming this program. I think long term, it's tough to use Clay for a lot of this stuff, but it's a good starting point to build this out. So I wouldn't focus on tech early on. I'd focus on how you're building, how you're selecting accounts, how you're prioritizing, finding what signals convert for your company before you go find solutions to help automate that bit of it.
Okay, brilliant.
Going on to
Before,
Alexa's question, actually,
yeah,
because I think it, oh, actually, oh man,
we've
I
already
lost
answered.
the question. There was a conversion rate question in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yes, we got one from Katie. Sorry, no, today for some reason the questions are coming up in a completely wrong order,
Yep.
so it's a little bit. But we love a little tech issue. It's fine. Katie is the one who just asked this one, saying, "What conversion rate would you consider good for a one-to-one campaign?"
Yeah. So the 2 to 4 baseline is what I always see from traditional ABM programs, and I don't think that it's good. I would argue that that's your cold baseline for most people. Like 2 to 4 should be what's like in market and naturally converting, regardless of how you're targeting the account. As soon as you get up towards that like 7% is where I would say like you're seeing the impact of your account selection. So look for that 7% to start. And then try and push it higher and higher. So again, we're now stacking 20 plus signals. We're using AI to bake that into our messaging. We're using it for our ad creative, all that. And that's what's pushing us that 12, 15% mark.
Okay, brilliant. And we've got another one here from Christian. The questions keep coming. I love this. How do you handle ad fatigue and frequency with one-to-one? If you're launching with 3 to 5 creatives, are you rotating those 3 to 5 creatives each week, month, or not rotating at all? So yeah, what does that look like for you, Isaac?
Yeah, so we don't rotate the creative in terms of like a traditional, like we run one at a time and then we swap them in. Okay. We run all 5 at the exact same time. We do use the equal rotation feature on LinkedIn because I think their smart rotation feature is not very smart and it's never good. Use equal rotation. We launch 5 at a time. We let them rotate. We only run a quarter max. So this company will only get those ads for a quarter, then they get shut off. We move on to the next quarter of account selection, new campaigns, everything like that. We do recycle accounts around every 6 months, but by the time we've hit 6 months, our messaging has potentially changed. Our learnings from ad creative has changed. In terms of ad fatigue and frequency, I am biased towards a higher frequency. If you do have a good variety of ads and it's not just like color changes or a different button on your ad, I do push up past 7 frequency and sometimes even higher depending on the account. We track the phrase internally. We see you guys everywhere on gong calls. And it's been a good measure of like, people haven't complained about how often they're receiving our ads. I'm sorry if some of you have been on the receiving end and it has been unpleasant, but we actually don't receive stuff on that side. All I get in my LinkedIn DMs is like compliments on our program. So I think as long as you are putting some effort into how you are targeting those accounts, I think people are receptive to it.
Okay, perfect. And Katie is asking here, so at what price does your tool start? I'm curious what size of the businesses can afford your service.
I'm not here to pitch. We're like 30,000. That's where we'll start on that. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, I think that is. I think that's it for questions today, actually. But if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or Isaac, both of us on LinkedIn. It's absolutely fine. We're happy to answer anything. And so I'll be sending out to you tomorrow morning the complete kind of guide of what we've gone through today, tactics and what you can do next in terms of your next steps. Within that, there'll be the recording as well, and it will also be all the slides. So yeah, thank you ever so much for joining today. And thank you for such great questions as well. It's been a complete joy to have you here, Isaac. And yeah, I think there's some great takeouts for this session. So thank you ever so much for joining us today. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.